All right, I just finished an hour of lecture podcast. It really kind of fries your brain at the end because you're just reeling over everything you said and whether or not it was copacetic or coherent or conducive to advanced thought on the part of the listener. But now I'm sort of stuck in this mire because quagmire because I I did the whole podcast. I couldn't upload it because it was only an M4A. It's like an MP3. It's an audio file, and I can't upload it to YouTube on its own in its own right. I have to sort of throw it into a video editor and then leave some dead image or some sort of animation in the background or whatever. Just a bullshit video, bullshit imagery. And then the video will just be that with the audio, as if I'm like Terrence McKenna or something, and I'm just like trip talking while like some animation's going on. And there's like ambient, electronic music in the background, like hurtling and girdling, Sorry, but that's not what it is. I mean, I don't like having to fiddle around with the memory in my computer just to get like a little bit of space to like edit these large audio files and put them in even larger video files and then upload them in the course of like 6 hours to someplace asinine like my YouTube channel that no one subscribes to, and I've never even tried to get anyone to subscribe to as of yet. But I'm making this video now, and I do want to start touching upon some things just to get the ball rolling, get the steam train going. One of those things is that, I mean, by the way, another shout out to Ozzy Osbourne. This whole month is going to be an Ozzy Osbourne is retiring themed month, I think. I think a lot of the content is going to be surrounding the fact that Ozzy Osbourne is too physically ill with Parkinson's and a litany of other medical issues to continue touring and maybe even performing music. I'm not really sure the ins and outs, but he does seem under the weather a lot, and he does seem like he's getting all these operations to try to enhance his like lifespan, and they're kind of backfiring a little in some cases. Although I'm sure he pays top dollar, so maybe not so much, but I mean, how many hip surgeries and knee surgeries can you get until you basically are an android that's on the brink of catching the next wave of COVID, and then because your body's made of metal, you just sort of disintegrate because you have no have no natural antipathy for the disease vector. Anyway, still getting caught in the weeds. It's just my Irish, Germanic, Goidelic, Teutonic pedigree sort of messing with my ability to communicate from my soul out through my lips to you. However, for this, so the Ozzy Osbourne thing is ongoing. I'm trying to make the most out of it and try to keep it as pertinent to that subject as possible. But the fact of the matter is I have a lot going on in this noggin. I really can't just talk about Ozzy Osbourne all the time, or I'll go kind of nuts. I might even turn a little bit like him and just sort of have a generic look of insanity in my eyes. I already have that with the hair and the lines on my face and the redness of my complexion. I don't need it in my eyes. That's the one place I really don't need it. Anyway, so Ozzy Osbourne being the Prince of Darkness, I'm going to announce the adjacent subject of this podcast / lecture, which is astrology. A little bit of tarot cards here and there, because I like tarot. A little bit of tattoo, taboo, wizardry, I like that. Some spell casting, potion making, maybe. Mostly it's astrology, because I'm a mage at astrology. One thing. Okay, so where do we start? A to B to C to D to E. All right, so you have Aries, you have Taurus, you have Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Scorpio, Sag, um, Capricorn, Pisces. 12. We all know this. Let's just say your mileage may vary. I find that a lot of these people are stuck in their ways. No one ever admits that they're governed by the planetary alignments, especially the seemingly arbitrary alignments of the planets at your birth, which is like hard to even calculate, and then dubious even if you could. But this is the thing: is I happen to notice that people have personality traits. They just do, and I also happen to notice that they coincide with their their signs more often than anyone really wants to admit. Right out of the hat, we have let's go with Virgo. Virgo's an easy one. Virgos are sensitive. They never admit they're sensitive. They are sensitive. They're calculating. They show you their emotions when they want to, and then they hide them when they're not going to get anything out of it. They know exactly when to show their emotions. Some signs almost never show their emotions, or they do in ways that are like blatantly contrived. Virgos will show their emotions in an organic, convincing, slightly deranged sociopathic way, and then they'll just sort of pull back. At the same time, they're very ethical in their way that they evaluate matters. Sometimes the ethics it can be confused by their need to persecute others. Well, I wouldn't say that they have a need to persecute anyone, but they do. They care about the truth, but they care about it sort of passively. They're not going to go out of their way to like harangue someone because they're in the wrong. That's a little bit more of like a Scorpio quality. Scorpios are more troll-like. There's between a Scorpio and a Virgo, and these are different signs in some ways. A Virgo is a mutable earth. Scorpio is a fixed water. Scorpios they care about honesty. They care about, but they don't necessarily care about decency, and there's sort of an irony there. Whereas Sagittarius, and that's the next door neighbor to Scorpio, they care a lot about decency. They don't necessarily care about honesty, and they have a certain kind of honesty to them that Scorpios lack, but that honesty is like sort of minimal. I think Sagittarius tend to lie out of laziness more than anything, but they won't lie out of any sort of sinister motive. Whereas a Scorpio will most often not lie, but if they do lie, they're really going to lie out of like for survival. And that can be perceived as sinister because Scorpios will find themselves often in desperate situations, so they think, and that makes them seem and act sort of desperate, so other people seem to think about them. Again, Virgos don't have these same qualities. Virgos are a lot more methodical. A Virgo will plan out what they're going to do for the week, and then do it. And then it'll just sort of be on the back burner as like a semi-accomplishment. It's nothing really to brag about. Virgos don't tend to brag too much, but that doesn't mean they're not working hard. Scorpios like to wear their accomplishments on their sleeves a little more. A Scorpio will maybe dress in a way that showcases what their skill set is. Then I'm not going to say that, but then that's sort of the limit. They wouldn't necessarily just start ranting about what they're good at. I think there are other signs that do that more. Think of that more as a fire sign quality, honestly. Water signs. Let's just do by element, I think. Oh, we'll talk about air. We'll do the whole side of the year we're on. So between Virgo and Scorpio is Libra. Libra is I think a cardinal air. And Libras are kind of go-getters. They like to talk about what they want. They like to sort of remind people, if not brag, about what they got after they stopped wanting it and ended up getting it. They're sort of vain. They're very aware of what has status and what doesn't, and they will make some slight compromises in life in order to go for what has status, even if it's not that pleasant an experience or noble an experience or in engagement. They will sort of jump into what construes status. What claims status for them, I guess. I'm blanking on the word I meant to use. Anyway, Libras, they're the scales, right? So they balance out everything to the point where they kind of come off like Virgos, a little bit like sociopaths. It's an extroverted sociopath. Virgo is a sociopath defensively. Libras are a sociopath offensively. They're both Libra will make an assessment about someone, what they want, how to steer them, how to charm them. They'll make that assessment and then they'll sort of lean in and talk their way into doing that and get that person on their side. Virgos aren't going to go out of their way to do that, but if you corner a Virgo, they will do that. That's the main difference. Virgos understand that sort of process, but they don't necessarily embrace it. Scorpios like that kind of thing, right? And again, Scorpio is on the other side of Libra from Virgo, so they're on sort of in the same wave, a little sort of in the same zone. Scorpios they're starting to move away from manipulating, and in fact they're a little overly aware of manipulation, and they don't really like it. So they just sort of default to like speaking their mind and being brutally honest, and that is construed as insulting. Now, good news, bad news, being insulting can seem sociopathic too. To if you're not a Scorpio, to people who don't like Scorpios, they see that as sociopathic. And sometimes Scorpios are aware of this, so they end up being passive aggressively insulting rather than, blatantly aggressively insulting and aggressively. And so Scorpios sort of refine their ability to sting at people. It starts out as just a need to be honest and not manipulative, and it ends up being manipulative and sort of calculated anyway. It's just the irony of the Scorpio, or the Scorpion. The Sagittarius is like this, but they don't. The Scorpio does it like at a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis. Sagittarius will see that Scorpios do this and won't want to do this frequently. Problem is that Sagittarius, they think about it so much because they know it's a thing and they're always trying to avoid doing it, that eventually they just sort of end up doing it when they get worn out. And then there's something that happens when you do something when you're worn out, where you do it at a grander scale by accident than you would have done it if you just were always trying to do it a little bit along the way. So the Sagittarius ends up catastrophically being offensive to people, but it's never like Benedict Arnold level or something. It's like not some like turncoat betrayal necessarily, but it just they will, or it could be. What it is that they sort of like they will do an about face, trot off on their horse's hooves, and then turn around and shoot you with an arrow. Whereas a Scorpion would go up to your leg and bite you, Sagittarius would shoot you with an arrow from a distance. A Sagittarius likes to hurt you from a distance. A Scorpio likes to hurt you from up close. They think that one is more noble than the other. It's just their like nature and temperament. But Sagittarius are also more playful because they have so much time in between being rude. When that whole like trotting off, it takes time to get distance enough to shoot the arrow at someone, right? So they're going to play the game a little more with people socially or whatever, or emotionally, and then eventually they sort of cut at them, and then they expect you not to mind that they do that. By the way, I found that's one of the biggest hurdles in my life dealing with Sagittarius is that they sort of pretend like they're really good guys and they don't want to be rude, and then they'll sort of end up doing it at some point anyway, and it's just inevitable, and they'll actually like scale up the level that they do it because they haven't done it in a while. So it's like, okay, man, like what's really your strategy here? But like I said, strategically, they're gonna snip at someone. Scorpio will do that, as almost like his personality. It's almost like it's baked into his personality. But the benefit with the Scorpio is that they do it so often at that like microscopic level that you kind of realize that they're not going to do it at the strategic level, and so you can trust that that's not going to happen. So you end up unexpectedly trusting them in a reverse sort of way. Like they're just like they're always spazzing out like a wind-up clock, or yeah, like their energy is you can tell is just overcommitted to something, and they're not going to bother with the more guiley mode of betrayal. Now Sagittarius is almost at the end of the year. Next one you have is Capricorn. Capricorns are even worse in a sense, because Capricorns will go even further into the strategy, and they'll see what Scorpio and Sagittarius do. They see it, and they don't like any of it. And so a Capricorn will be like, I'm not going to play these emotional games. I'm just going to be sort of like this, I'm going to be like a pretty face, and I'm just going to put my nose down and work hard. And that's ostensibly what they seek to do, is just sort of work all the time. But what ends up happening is that they use their work as a justification for avoiding people in a hurtful way, where they brush aside how hurtful it might be, or they will overly identify with what they do in their work and then to the point where like if you made any fun of it, they would basically turn away from you. I've had this happen multiple times where they overly identify with some passion project that turns into maybe a small time career, and they're so into it. It's like this little hobby that became a little bit more than a hobby. They're so into it that it becomes sort of like a facade for a personality. And then, but what really is it's an opportunity they're really just trying to read you by having that be sort of the front, how you interact with their front is how they formulate how much they can trust you. So if they're like an artist, a painter, how you feel about painting is all that matters to them. They don't care about how you feel about them. They don't exist. That's the important thing to understand about Capricorns. They do exist, but they will insist that they're just there is no they. They are only like a function of their working life and their purpose in life. That kind of thing gets really infuriating because I think most of the other signs won't do that, or at least will suggest suggest that they don't, and then would recommend against it for others. So it's this sort of like anonymous gesture that Capricorns do. Capricorns are not easy to read, and I think that's why they work so hard, is that they don't like showing their emotions. They don't want to be read. They don't want to be like, the overly pleasant Sagittarius that ends up betraying you, or the nasty Scorpio that just sort of has this weird, like, unpleasant vibes, often just sort of vaguely unpleasant all the time, or the Libra that's like, only cares about like superficial achievements, or the Virgo that only cares about, you know, introspective achievements. The Capricorn just wants to be consistent. The problem is that is theoretically, kind of an option, but in reality, it doesn't always pan out that way. And for Capricorns, they really get upset when they start to veer off course. And in fact, most Capricorns view people as part of their system rather than the other way around, or rather than viewing people as social objects. They view people almost as professional objects more than anything. Especially adult Capricorns. But even younger Capricorns will exhibit this quality as it pertains to whatever they have to do in life, like school or art projects or talent shows or whatever. It's just the nature of the game. Okay, the next one is Pisces. It's the last one. So we're not saving the best for last, which would be Pisces, because it's the last one. But we're gonna go back to the ones we missed, or we just skipped, really, because I didn't want to think about them. Honestly, the winter signs are more interesting to me. Anyway, the spring and summer signs are a little too shiny for me to deal with all at once. I feel like my eyes are gonna burn. Anyway, back to Pisces. This is the fish, right? Yeah, the Pisces is like really chill and detached, and they're looking at the Capricorn, who's like always trying to look like they're the professional, the consummate professional. The Pisces looks at that and they think, oh, that's really really try hard and superficial and kind of phony and inhumane. I'm going to be like the opposite, where I will have a life, but I'll make my life about like who I am, my personality. So the Pisces does the opposite thing, where everything they do has to do with their personality. It has to do with their creativity and their expressiveness. So they can have an amazing job, but they'll just chalk it up to being like, well, how they feel a certain way, and so they end up doing it because of life's trauma and problems, and oh, woe is me. I'm only doing this because I'm a loser, and I just blah blah blah. But Pisces like to identify with the loser. They would like to let you know that they think they're a loser. And if they are letting you know that, it probably means that they trust you. So don't abuse the fact, that they're letting you know this. But this is the thing, is that it gets a little odd, I think, for some signs. I'm a Scorpio, so I'm compatible with Pisces technically. So I don't mind this that much. But I can see how a lot of signs would find this kind of whininess to be sort of wishy-washy and it maybe even dishonest. Because I think we can all admit that we have ambitions. We want jobs because we want to succeed and excel. We do projects because we want to improve our lives and be better people, but not better. But we just kind of want to win, right? Like we just kind of want to ruthlessly just sort of cutthroat win, beat out the competition. A Pisces will probably not say that they're trying to do that unless they're being very humorous. Pisces really wants to be like seen as like sort of this child at heart that just wants to be happy and can't find happiness, so does things just to, bide the time and feel a little bit of happiness here and there. It's like a Kurt Cobain kind of attitude. But really, he was a Pisces. But really, we all know that there's some sort of like crass ambition behind what Pisces does. It's not all doom and gloom coping Pisces. We know that, like some people who are like Pisces, they're like more successful than me. They'll always act like, oh, they're just doing things because they feel empty and they hate their lives. And I appreciate the poetry in that, and I think it's a good way to connect to someone by being honest with your emotions. But I also know that it's like that's like one side of the coin, dude. Like that's not everything. Then again, I am more compatible with Pisces than other signs, so I'm going to tolerate that better. Another thing that Pisces are like, though, is that Pisces will not, because they're very like about their mood, how they feel about themselves. They're very into how they feel about themselves, and because they're very into how they feel about themselves, they they tend to not express as extrovertedly as you would like them to. They're really not as extroverted as some other signs. They don't like to sustain sort of humorous bouts of dialogue. They don't really like to go out of their way to charm all sorts of people all the time. They don't really want to be the center of attention. Or if they do, they want it to be for like who they are deep down rather than just for, kind of having like this killer frontman energy. The vitality for Pisces is sort of like a secondary thing. For them, it's all about just, it's about coping. Pisces really love to cope. And if you interfere with their ability to cope, then they start to think that you're kind of like a wild animal or something. So, and they're not necessarily hateful people, but they view you as sort of a disruptive negative energy. So yeah, that's Pisces. I don't know if I went through half or not. Let's see, because I might have to for storage reasons. I'm gonna have to stop this and start round 2 in a sec after I clear the storage. 1, 2. Okay, so Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. Yeah, it's 6. Okay, that's half. Next one will be Aries. All right, I'm at 27 minutes. This will be part 1. Then part 2 will hopefully be around the same time frame, and it'll be in the same format, and I won't have to change anything. It'll just be a second video on the website.